Sharifah Namusisi. I'm a marriage counselor, life coach, and the new PR manager for Educate and Open Uganda. I promised I'll be talking about it every now and then. It's a registered non-profit organization that's all about keeping the less privileged orphans in school by collecting as little as 5,000. Again, 5K from the registered members. You should join us. Moving on. Thank you for joining me for another video. A few months ago, I put out a video on reasons why women stay in toxic marriages. So this week, I want to talk about reasons why men stay in bad, unhealthy, and toxic marriages. Yes, you heard me, men. It's time we talked about that, right? And again, you're going to find that there are some reasons in here that many women are also going to relate to, and that's okay. But like I was saying, did you know that women can be as damaging and toxic to their partner as men can be to a woman? And not very often do we talk about the fact that there are many good men out there that are enduring relationships with controlling, belittling, insulting, manipulative, angry, physically, emotionally, and verbally abusive women on a daily basis. We don't often hear those stories because while women can go and pour out their hearts to their friends on Facebook and always having a kind listening ear, men don't get the luxury. Not only does their pride stop them from doing it for the fear of them being seen as less of a man, soft or cowards, but also society doesn't allow it. So ask yourself, what happens to these men who have been hurt so deeply? Well, usually they turn to no one and they suffer in silence. And as a result, they end up very bitter and selfish. And although some men can stay and work through their issues, there are those that fail and stay in these toxic relationships. Of course, each has a reason of their own. if someone grew up in an environment where abuse, be it verbal or physical, was common, they may not know what healthy relationships look like. And as a result, they may not recognize that their partner's behavior are unhealthy or toxic. People like this genuinely don't have a reference for a healthy relationship. And many people in dysfunctional marriages are simply reenacting the dysfunction that they experienced through their lifespan. They have no relationship models to draw from. Another reason that most of the men give is the illusion of control. Many people involved in toxic relationships are convinced that they have control of the situation, or they have managed to find ways to handle the abuse. For example, they disregard it, escape it, ignore it, minimize it. Many of us are guilty of this one. We develop coping mechanisms, and sometimes it's necessary. If you're determined to stay in a relationship that's characterized by episodes of abuse every now and then, but honestly, do you really really have the control of the situation by choosing to ignore it or to wait it out? Or you're just maintaining an illusion? Is this relationship the one that you really want to be in? One that urges you to turn a blind eye to what's going on? Also, does ignoring the abuse make it non-existent or insignificant? And even if you can control the bad moments, why are you really involved with someone who occasionally treats you so badly? Moving on. Reason number 5. It's shame. It can be difficult for someone to admit that they've been or are being abused. Just he's telling the other people that it's the woman who is emotionally or physically abusing them. They would never. They would rather die. They may feel that they've done something wrong, that they deserve the abuse, or that them experiencing that abuse is a sign of weakness. Remember that blame shifting is also a common tactic that the toxic partner may use and can reinforce a sense of responsibility for their partner's abusive behaviors. Another reason people stay is intimidation. One may be intimidated into staying in a toxic relationship by verbal or physical threats, or threats to spread information, including secrets or confidential details. This is an opportunity for the toxic partner to exert control. And the other reason that I had was the lack of self-esteem. This really causes people to settle. After experiencing verbal abuse or blame for physical abuse, it can be easy for the abused to believe these sentiments and believe that they are at fault for their partner's abusive behaviors and that they don't deserve better. Umuntu akuteka mu situation where they feel like akuyamba na buyambi, and then when you start to believe this, you will settle for whatever situation, bad or whatever, however terrible it is. And then there is lack of resources. Survivors may be financially dependent on their abusive partner, especially women. These factors can make it seem impossible for someone to leave a toxic situation. And then we have society or the cultural context. Traditional customs or beliefs may influence someone's decision to stay in a toxic situation, whether held by the survivor or by their family and community. And then the biggest one that many of us like to use to, I don't know if it's to console ourselves, children. Many couples stay together because of their children. They don't want to feel responsible for disrupting their family unit. But the belief that children would be affected more negatively by separation of their parents than by witnessing abuse taking place between their parents is somewhat twisted. If you're staying because of the children, be aware that you as their parent, you give them vivid examples of what love is supposed to look like. You're literally teaching them that it is preferable to endure abuse and pain than let go and walk away. By the way, children may also be used as a tactic by the toxic partner to guilt the other one into staying. And then there is love. Experiencing abuse and feeling genuine care for a partner who is causing harm are not mutually exclusive. Survivors often feel they still have strong intimate feelings for their toxic partner. They may have children together, they want to, maintain their family, or the person abusing them may simply be charming. But the question for you is love really enough a reason for you to endure continuous abuse? Anyway, there is also guilt. Another reason that many have one of the most vicious manifestations of abuse is called blame the victim. The abuser may have convinced the victim that they are actually responsible for their bad behavior, accusing them that they brought it upon themselves. Although this may seem illogical to the outsider, guilt and manipulation has a really potent effect for people staying in toxic relationships. It's not hard to gradually form the belief that the abuse happens because of what you do. Yeah, everything is happening because of you, you're the problem. Yes, it's true in relationship compromises of interactions, which is why it's useful to consider your own contribution to its pattern, But then again, abuse is not justified, and it is therefore not your fault that it happens. So if this is the case for you, breaking out of the dysfunctional pattern of the relationship becomes even more difficult. You feel guilty for wanting to leave, because if you would try just a bit harder, maybe, just maybe, everything would fall back into place. Reason number 13. This one is mostly for the ladies who stick it out in toxic relationships because we feel like our biological clock is ticking, When a woman wants to have a child or more children, the idea of starting over close to childbearing age invokes feelings of desperation. Sometimes we feel like leaving our marriage, no matter how bad, robs us of our only chance to be mothers. And meanwhile, I've also met men who will tell you, so they would stay because they feel like they're at that age where they're not going to start to look for new people to date, but really, I feel like if you're out there and you're going through all these things, you do not have to actually suffer. Come talk to me. I feel like we can always find solutions to all these problems. And then the reason that actually made me laugh a lot that men stay is great sex. Abachala abatabimbugo, mululimi oluganda. Mulemeseza abasajja bangi mu bufumbo obuli toxic. You will ask a man, omukazi nga mutamivu, omukazi nga kubo, omukazi nga mulalu. Agamba why? So really, most of the men are in toxic marriages because of that one thing. The woman is good in bed. I think you've heard of the saying, they want a hoe in the sheets and the lady on the streets. So, moving on. There are those who are staying in toxic marriages because they do not want to disrupt their married lifestyle. It can be a difficult habit to break. Reason number 16 that I got to write down was there are those who feel like divorce seems worse than a bad marriage. Hagamba mfira mu bufumbo buno naye nga sinobye. Because there are those who stay, and they have the irrational fears and the negative future fantasies. They distort one's perception, keeping them stuck in an unhealthy marriage. Using rationalization and denial, couples convince themselves that their situation isn't really that bad, and they end up staying too long, longer than they should. Because there's also that stigma around divorce. So as long as I'm still alive. You might want to rethink that too. Reason number 17. We have those who simply remain committed to their commitment. These are mostly the church people. I would like to say this. A commitment should always be placed in context. The world in which we live in is far from black and white. Couples who remain committed, despite high levels of pain and suffering, should always ask themselves precisely for what they remain committed. Ndini egamba bweti, guma ubufumbo bulungi, but ubufumbo really bulungi wo today because you're suffering, you're in tears every day. But because you want to stay committed to the commitment you made on the day you were at the church, on the day you were in the masjid, no gamba sina agenda ga. Kabani kundongo. Rethink that. Reason number 18. We have those who stay because of manipulation and entrapment. Manipulation is the hallmark of emotional abuse within toxic relationships. Many individuals in unhealthy relationships are continuously manipulated in order to believe that this is not even an option to leave the relationship. As in, quite often they may feel isolated, distanced from their social network. They may be afraid to leave the relationship because their partner may have threatened them about worse outcomes should they even attempt to go. Umusajja akuteka mu mbeera where you feel like ani agenda okutwala ugenda lagawa chichorina. I mean, who are you? Where are you even going to start from? So now kuteka mu mbeera where they feel like kuyamba buyambi, and then when you start to believe that, then we have a problem. The other reason is we have those who admitted to staying because they've lost themselves in these toxic relationships. Yes, men and women, they get caught up in trying to connect with or and the approval of their abusive partner. We lose ourselves in small ways. It can start with romance, when it's normal to want to please our loved one and spend much of our time together. However, emotionally mature adults don't drop their activities, give up their lives, or overlook improper behavior of their partner despite strong physical attraction. And neither are they desperate to have or maintain a relationship. Tuyinza gamba nti buli kimu nkisudde, nze ngenda kufumba, emikwano sikyayagala, outing sikyayagala, I don't want this, I don't want nze ngenda kuba. No, please, a healthy relationship means independence for both partners. Finally, this is quite a kind of a long one. It's called intermittent reinforcement, or you can call it hot and cold, or pull or push, or in simpler words, or to be more specific, it's called trauma bonding. Let me explain. The most prominent reason that someone would stay in a toxic relationship is that those relationships are highly addictive. Actually addictive because of that intermittent reinforcement. The inconsistent rewarding. Intermittent reinforcement is a conditioning schedule in which a reward or punishment is not administered every time the desired response is performed, but instead inconsistent and irregular. I'm still explaining. This type of conditioning has been extensively studied on animals in the laboratories. It is the opposite of continuous reinforcement, where a reward is given every time after a specific action is performed. But it all starts from there. Rats would have to push a lever, and then food would be administered to them, right? So first they learn that every time they push the lever, they get food, okay? So that's the positive reward in continuous reinforcement. Eventually though, food does not come out when they push the lever. Only really rarely. So would you expect that this would result in the rat actually giving up from pushing the lever? Wrong. The opposite happens. Since the rat has learned that food was given when pushing the lever in the past, it actually becomes frantically involved with repeatedly pushing the lever in despair until food is provided once again. So it develops an anxious obsession with the lever. So now I want you to replace that lever with the abusive partner in your mind, and you understand what intermittent reinforcement is in abusive relationships. Intermittent reinforcement actually causes biochemical changes in the reward system of our brain. It is the basis of gambling and other forms of addiction in humans. Nogera nokubazala, and you keep losing, but you don't stop, right? Noga kanyongereyo. So if the reward always follows the conditioned cue, then the cue can quickly become less dopamine inducing. Instead, the dopamine response is much more prominent and intense when the reward is inconsistent. The rush is so much higher then. The high is so satisfying when the reward does come in the end. It becomes long awaited for and precious. So this is a great explanation about why so many actually get bored of a good and caring partner. The brain does not produce any more dopamine there. So as a result, to the nice thing the partner does for them, but let's go back. The more infrequent the positive reward, the more addicted the individual becomes. Intermittent reinforcement is the foundation of the trauma bond that maintains abusive relationships. Trauma bonding is defined as the strong emotional attachment between an abused person and their abuser, formed as a result of the circle of violence interchanging fear and love. I'm sure we've all seen this. Omukazi bamukubye leero enkyali in Dubai. So there is the abuse, and then there is the reward. Yes? Rachito vayo. Next week, they've broken her phone, and the motoka. That cycle of violence is the application of the intermittent reinforcement in abusive relationships. Tension builds up, and it results in acute explosions that are further followed by a honeymoon period of love and affection. So that fits the denial of the victim that everything will turn out just fine this time. I think he's going to change. That is his way of apologizing. No cigara. And then this time something else happens, something terrible. He rewards you. And the other latest I were like, last time he did this, last time she did this, last time. And before you know it, in our relationship with trauma bonding, there is a lot of really terrible stuff happening, and then occasionally really great stuff happening. So I hope to put out a video on this specific topic sometime, more detailed. But if you resonate with most of these reasons, whether you're a man or woman, then you need to evaluate your beliefs about self-love and relationships. Our choices are guided by our belief system. People that are in bad relationships often have dysfunctional beliefs about love, relationships, and themselves. So first of all, I want you to check the beliefs below and evaluate which ones may apply to you. 1. Do you believe that any relationship will turn sour at some point and all relationships are doomed to cause pain? Because there are some of us who walk around saying this. We actually do believe it. Now, at a relationship, no pretense. So if you have that belief in your head, then we already have a problem. And then number 2, there are many of us who actually believe that all men are the same. So no one have no mwenzi, no one have no omukubi. You will be like, nobody like Kachkola. All men are the same. It's not only mine. Let me bust that bubble for you. Men are not the same. Number 3, there are some people who believe that love is supposed to hurt. I mean, you see where the problems come from, And then number 4, people who tell us that it is okay to endure pain in the name of love. Bera mugumikiriza guma, love wetu webera. Ni watu convincing you cannot be happy from Monday to Monday, guma. Another one, I don't deserve love or happiness. I am damaged. And then we have those who will tell you, there are many people who are struggling to get married. Guma, you're even lucky to have a partner. I mean, this bad relationship is still better than nothing. Omuntu nakuteka mwecho that, you being married, you're holding like what? An achievement or good gold. Whether you're dying, whether it kills you, I mean, you're lucky. And then we have those who will tell you, what? For me, I cannot be alone. I would rather die in a bad relationship. Like everyone has their own belief system. Along the way. And then there are those who believe, she loves me in his own way. Because people actually believe that beating is a sign of love. In terms of he doesn't love you. Then there are those who say, he loves me in his own way. Which way is that? Anyway, your mindset is a powerful thing. From the moment you wake up to the moment you rest your head at night, everything is up to you. Your emotions, your thoughts, perceptions, reactions. So start off by realizing your own role and contribution in the dynamic of the relationship. What you allow is what will continue. Be accountable of your own role in the patterns that play out. And by realizing you do have an active part, you actually gain a sense of control about your ability to improve your situation. Work on your boundaries. Knowing what you can and cannot tolerate will increase your self-worth and self-awareness so much, and it will prepare you for a healthier relationship in the future, be it with this toxic partner or not. Then, regard the opinion of those who care about you. Really, I want to wear you balababinji more than you can actually see. They can actually sense the abuse before you even do it. Many people close to you seem concerned about you. If they do seem concerned about you, you may be tempted to shut them out. Instead, how about you evaluate their opinions carefully from now on, and keep in mind that they would not be worried about you if you had not given them a reason to. Think of them as mirrors that reflect back to you about what you show them. then it's okay to seek support also. I mean, a toxic relationship can be intensely traumatizing. Empower yourself by seeking support if necessary. There is no problem with that. Surround yourself with people that care about you and can greatly help in helping you feel less lonely. And therapy too. I mean, it can be a powerful assistance to put your pieces back together and embark on a journey of healing. And it all comes down to this. I feel like we accept the love we think we deserve based on how we treat and feel about ourselves. So if you don't even treat yourself with love, kindness, and the respect that you deserve, you're unlikely to demand that from anyone else. Let me help you break that cycle. Reach me at Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa